Our next speaker is Wendy Betts. Wendy, welcome. Thank you, sir. No.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. I have to confess, first off, that I have no background in the maritime sector. Instead, my expertise lies in human rights documentation more generally. But as David mentioned earlier, I think the tool that we have developed at the International Bar Association can be of particular use in the maritime context. So I appreciate the opportunity to tell you more about that today. So I am the director of the eyeWitness to Atrocities project. This is an initiative that was begun by the International Bar Association, which is the membership organization for attorneys headquartered here in London. And we began this project in 2011. And what we've done is developed a mobile camera app that can be used to photograph or videotape information related to human rights violations, but in a way that that information could be further used in investigations or trials. So why did we develop this? So first of all, as I mentioned, we began the project in 2011, and that's really when you began to see the rise of information being posted to social media and other internet platforms coming out of conflict zones and areas that were experiencing mass levels of human rights violations. But then quickly after that, you started to see a lot of this information be debunked. So it soon became clear that there were serious shortcomings that prevented the use of this information towards actual investigations or trials to hold the individuals that appeared responsible for these violations accountable. And so what are the main reasons for that? So first of all, the time and place is often misidentified or can be purposefully incorrect. There's also an inability sometimes to determine if the footage has been edited or photoshopped. So you don't know if effects have been added in. You don't know if key components of the event filmed have been left out. You don't know who uploaded it. So even if it was accurate when it was uploaded, you don't know who's had access to it since then, who's shared it, and it's hard to find the source who originally posted it to go back and clarify any of this information. So not only do you have fake images being believed, more tragically, you have people often risking their lives to capture authentic, accurate information that's being denied or dismissed because it can't be authenticated. So in the maritime context, again, I think one example of this is the New York Times series that ran on the murders at sea and the footage that they happened to find on someone's mobile phone that seemed to show an execution at sea of seafarers, but without knowing any more about who took it, where exactly it was, whose ships those were, who the victim was, etc. It was very difficult to act further on that information. So when we set about to design the eyeWitness app, we consulted with courts at various levels and varying jurisdictions to determine the admissibility requirements for video footage or photographic images and what the shortcomings really were with those that were appearing on social media. And so while each jurisdiction, so we looked at national level all the way up to the International Criminal Court, we looked at regional courts, and we looked at different legal traditions, common law, civil law. And while they each clearly have their own nuances and their own rules of evidence, there were certain key principles that were very consistent across jurisdictions. And these are the principles around which we designed the eyeWitness app. So the two basic evidentiary principles are that the information needs to be first relevant, which means it has to be telling the judge that a fact that they are trying to make a determination on is more or less likely. So that really goes to the content of the footage. The second is reliability, and so that is, can the judge believe that the information being put forth is what it's purported to be? And so in the case of video evidence, you'll see these three features. They want a verifiable date and location for the information. They want to know that it's raw, unedited footage, so they want to know the integrity is intact. And then originality is important, meaning they know that this was the information from the point it was captured, and that they can know who had access to the information at every step along the way until it came before their court. So these three features are really where the eyeWitness app comes into play. So before going to the app, let me tell you the state of play now. So there's many verification toolkits that have been put together to help try to authenticate information that's been posted already online or provided to media or other human rights documentation organizations. So these use various tools looking at doing reverse image searches to see if a picture they have in their hand has appeared online previously, and this can tell them if it was maybe filmed somewhere else or at a different time. They can use landmarks in the film to try to identify the location. They can use shadows and the angles of shadows to try and determine the time of day or the time of year that the information was taken. But even under the best of circumstances, these methods are time-consuming and they aren't necessarily foolproof. So imagine that under a cityscape. Now imagine that challenge at sea. So I picked these two images to try and bring that point home. So if you look at the image on the left, you have vehicles in it, which may have license plates you can zoom in on. There's graffiti on the walls that could give you at least a language clue. You have the minaret. You have various features of this image that you can use to try and geolocate it and use to verify if it's appeared somewhere else before. Now you look at the image at sea. Very few of those visual clues exist. So for this reason, we think the eyeWitness app really could be a tool of particular use in that environment. So what we've done is develop the app to collect the information needed to meet these three requirements at the point of capture, and done automatically, so we're no longer relying on just the testimony or the word of the person who took it or the person who posted it about its authenticity. So quickly, how we do this. For verifiable date and location, we collect information from three different sources, and it's collected automatically and stored encrypted, so the user themselves cannot change or manipulate the information in any way. So first, the device gets a satellite lock, and the app is recording the latitude, longitude, date and time directly from the satellite. Because they're doing it from a satellite, they're not doing an internet lookup, so the user does not have to be connected to the internet to be able to collect this information. They're also looking for nearby Wi-Fi networks, and any networks that are available, they will record them. Again, the user doesn't have to be connected to the Wi-Fi, they just have to be in range, and the app will record it. And then third, any nearby cell towers. So again, this would be probably most relevant to ships in port or immediately offshore. But because there's three different data points, at least one should come through. And if you have more than one, you can use it to corroborate the others. In terms of integrity, this is going to get a bit technical, but please stick with me. So the app generates a hash value, which is a unique identifying code that's assigned to the image immediately when it's been recorded. The way it generates this code is it uses the pixel count. So every video, every photo is made up of pixels. Each of those pixels has a unique value that's based on the size, the color, the intensity. We add those up, we put it through an algorithm, and we come up with the hash value, which is basically the fingerprint for that image. Any changes that made to that image would elicit a new hash value. So we collect it and encrypt it at the point of capture, and then when we receive the image, we run it through the same algorithm and confirm that the codes match. So that gives a verification that you're looking at raw, uncut footage. And then for originality and the chain of custody, all images collected with the app are stored in a separate secured gallery inside the app. No images from the standard phone gallery can be transferred in, and nothing can be transferred out until one copy is first sent to us. So they're stored encrypted on the device. The user, when they are in Wi-Fi range, can submit a copy to us. Until they're in range, it can sit safely in their secure gallery. All of the information about where and when it was taken is stored safely, reflecting the point of capture. But when they have Wi-Fi or other data access, they can transmit it to us. It's transmitted encrypted, and we store it in an offline server that we can only physically access. And so that way it can't be hacked into and the information accessed. So that's basically a virtual evidence locker. So all the original encrypted, uncut footage remains there. So it can be used then for an investigation or a trial. So what does this mean for crimes at sea? Once we receive footage, we decrypt a copy that we put in our own database, and we have a full-time legal analyst on staff that reviews everything that comes in and looks for any information that seems to indicate that a crime may be committed. And so we have been working, as David mentioned, with Human Rights at Sea to use them as our partner organization to look into and conduct investigations into anything that we see that looks to be relevant to human rights violations against seafarers. So our goal now really is to spread the word and try to disseminate this app among seafarers and really provide for them a tool to empower them to be able to report on any crimes that they see committed. So I think I will leave it there. So thank you.